Hello and welcome to the first video of a series on how to create terrains using Gaea. We will take a look at the software itself first, such as the interface, the two types of workflows, graph and layer based, and so on. After that, we will create our very first terrain, an hero mountain, and I will show you the typical workflow for creating such terrain from zero to a final textured version, as well as exporting it for rendering in an external application or to use it in a game engine. So, I hope you will enjoy this journey and let's get started. Every time you start up Gaea, you will get this window here. On the left, you have the previous project, and on the right, you have various options. You can create a terrain using graph node based, create a terrain using a layer based workflow, sculpt an existing terrain using Erosion Studio. This is basically a sculpting feature like ZBrush, but inside Gaea, where you can manually add maybe an erosion like on the peak or where you want it. So hand-based sculpt. Then you can open an existing file and open a demo example. Now, Gaea is based on two types of workflow. The graph node based is the main one, and you can create anything with it. It's what I recommend using, and it's what I use every day. The layer one is considered the most simple approach to terrain creation. It's very similar to using like Photoshop, where you stack filters on top of each other or layers on top of each other. For this video here, let's start with the graph because I think it's the best. In the next one, I will also show you the layer-based workflow, but as I said before, I don't recommend it. So let's click on the graph-based. Gaea will start, and this is the software. On the center here, at the center, we have the viewport, like in every other 3D software. You can move your camera around by holding down the left mouse button and simply move the mouse. You can zoom using the mouse wheel, and you can also pan by holding down the middle mouse button. Okay. Here on the top, we have the usual menus such as new project, open project, save. We also have this plus icon near the save. This means save incremental, so you can save multiple files for security reason. Then we have a viewport preview resolution here on the top left. Now, this terrain looks very blurred and not very detailed. So, to increase the resolution, you simply click on this button here, okay? And we have 4 resolutions going from 0.5K to 4K. 4K is still experimental in this particular build, and I use it only for rendering, for taking a screenshot for preview or maybe a rendering, quick rendering. I usually work with 1K resolution for the terrain mesh itself, and then switch to 2K when I'm texturing. Then we have these icons here. The default one is the orbit, this one, okay, where you can move around with your camera. Then we have the first person mode, and this works like a video game. You move by using the WASD keys on the keyboard and simply hold down the left mouse button to move the camera around. Let's go back to the default orbit view. Then we have a show 2D viewport, and it will split up your viewport into two. You can take a look at your terrain from the top. This is useful maybe for texturing, but also when you will create more complex terrains such as islands and other stuff like that. We have the option by clicking on this arrow here to enable the secondary 2D viewport. That's basically the 2D view but with a floating window. And these arrows are the undo and redo, but you can simply use the Ctrl Z like in every software. Then we have the toolbox on the left here. This is the collection of all the nodes that you can use for creating your terrains. I will go through them later on in the next video. Then on the bottom here we have the graph node where you place all the various nodes for creating your terrains. You can, for example, drag them from the toolbox by left clicking on one of them, such as dunes, for example, and left click and hold and drag it here. And here we have our dunes. Or you can simply right click and choose from the list whatever you want. I usually use this method here. But as I said, I won't explain how to create a terrain yet. This is just the interface. Then here in the graph, we have various icons for the node workflow, such as you can like reset all the settings of the various nodes. We can also pin the nodes. I will explain what it means in the next video. And we have many other options, but I won't go through them here. To move, you simply hold down the middle mouse button and move around. Then you can select the nodes by left clicking and hold, and you have the classical rectangle of selection, or you can simply left click on what you want to select. And you can also use these icons on the bottom right, auto fit. We automatically fit the view at the center. Then we have this one. It's used for quickly navigate the graph. You can also zoom in and zoom out without using the hotkeys. Then we have force a refresh. If something go wrong, like a node doesn't load, you can force a refresh. Then we have mutate nodes. This will basically randomize everything because it's procedural and non-destructive, so you can always go back and make changes, as well as making variations in one click. And then if you click on this on these bars here on this icon, we can take a screenshot of a viewport, of a graph, or both. We also have some snap option. Here on the right, we have the properties of the various nodes. For example, I selected the erosion node, so I have the erosion options. But if I select the mountain node, I have the option for my mountain. Let's talk about the settings for the viewport. The viewport is based on the Unity game engine, and it's a real-time rendering viewport like Blender Eevee. So you can change some settings. If you click on the word settings icon here, you can move your light around. Okay. You can also make maybe a sunset, whatever you want. Then you have some advanced options like the exposure, sun intensity, and as well as shadows, ambient light, ambient occlusion, and so on and so forth. You also have the water. You want to visualize the water level, you can simply change the parameter. Okay. And this of course can be used for rendering. If you set it to 4K, you get a very good resolution, and you can take a viewport screenshot, and you have your rendering. This build here is for exporting. We'll talk about in the next videos. And this X icon is for canceling whatever you are doing. So maybe you placed a node, it's loading, but it takes too much time, or maybe something went wrong. You can cancel everything. You can also suspend the engine. That's basically won't update the viewport. You can place various nodes, but it won't load them into the viewport. So that's basically it for the interface. One last thing is that here on the very bottom left you have a workflow graph. If you click on it, you can switch to the layer-based workflow. However, for this version here, there is a bug and it doesn't work really well. So if you want to work, I recommend choosing your desired workflow from the beginning. Okay, so that is it for the interface. In the next one, we'll start taking a look at the real terrain creation and what you can do with the various nodes. So if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment if you have any questions, subscribe to stay up to date, and I'll see you in the next one. Eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light